You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 133 of Retired Racehorse Radio on the Horse Radio Network, part of Equine Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, Cashel Company, Zero Proof Horse Treats, and Spalding Labs. Retired Racehorse Radio is your guide to the adoption, care, and training of the retired racehorse. Brought to you in cooperation with the Retired Racehorse Project and New Vocations Racehorse Adoption Program.
On today's show, we're chatting with Meg Smits about her Racetrack connections and how that provides a safe landing spaces for retired racers in her therapy program. We catch up with Maya Larson and Chris Bennings as they prepare for the Thoroughbred Makeover. And we wrap up with Winnie Morgan Nemeth from New Vocations, bringing you 2 adoptable horses this week. Stay tuned.
And they're off on Retired Racehorse Radio, the podcast that is your guide to the adoption, care, and training of the retired racehorse.
This is Joy. We're in Detroit, Michigan.
And this is Kristen Kovach-Bentley in Jamestown, New York, and you're listening to Retired Racehorse Radio.
Kristen, how are things going? Because listeners might not know because of our regular cadence, but we pre-record these. It's been a couple weeks since we've had a chance to chat.
It has. It's amazing. Like, we're always on that 2-week schedule, and then every now and then we get like a bonus week off in there.
Yeah, but that feels so long.
It does. I was like, how do I talk onto a microphone? But here we are. No, it was like a nice little break. So I've done like a nice mishmash of like non-horse girl activities and horse girl activities. So yeah, like I like that our summer theme is kind of the same for both of us, and it's like live your best life summer. So we've been trying to find that balance. So yeah,
I love that.
It's been fun. Yeah, this past weekend, what did I do? Oh, we went canoeing. That was a good time.
And you had a craft show too, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, my little craft business is starting to pick up a little momentum. I am still in the red, but it's fine.
Got to start somewhere.
Small business, baby. Yeah, no, we're having fun with that. And then we did go to a horse show the weekend prior to that. So, Jobber actually made it to that show, which is nice because the one before that he hadn't, because he had some mystery lameness that never actually blossomed into an abscess. He just maybe had a stone bruise. Who knows? Either way, he didn't go. It's fine. So we the last one was like a ranch trail show. Okay. So we did a couple rounds through the ranch trail with no cows, and then they added cattle for like a cattle challenge portion. So so both me and Eric each won a class, roped our cows, got our cows penned. It was a good time. So. And like worked through like the like stupid, I don't want to say stupid because it's a justifiable, like legitimate thing, but like the buddy sourness that Jobber has where he gets in the ring by himself and is like, wait, I can't do this anymore. Since we started bringing Shorty along. So made the executive decision to switch after the first class. I took the curb bit I had been using with the Ramel reins. I took that off, left that in the trailer and put him back in the snaffle bit. And just rode him 2-handed in the snaffle and kind of like just re-engaged his body and brain. And that's kind of like got me thinking on sort of reapproaching how I'm going into the bridle. So like today when I rode him in the snaffle for 15 minutes first and then put him in the curb. And that had better results. So I think I just need to do a little more like bridging, but from one to the next. So also picked Jody Bush's brain. So our repeat Make the Makeover guest. And we've had her on before to talk about the Basel. And I think we need to have her come back on at some point to talk about like the bit and the bridle. But yeah, she was very nice and like did like a remote bit answer all my questions session one night. Like I just walked through my tack room and was taking pictures of like the myriad of bits I've collected over the years. Like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And the suggestion she made, he seems to enjoy. So turns out Jody very much knows what she's talking about, as if we had any doubts. So yeah, so we'll go back to the show pen in a couple weeks on cattle and we'll see how it goes. So
very nice. Yeah. Sounds like a very well-rounded weekend.
It was. Yeah, it was nice. Like got some horse stuff achieved, got some non-horse stuff achieved. So how about you? You were in the show pen too. Show ring. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. It's not a pen unless it's
some
Western.
days it feels that way, the dressage arena. We did have a dog that kept running back and forth out of the arena. I was like, okay. But yeah, it was a good weekend. So like Saturday was super chill, just being able to like spend time with my own horse. I had a fabulous ride on her. Like Astrid is coming along so nicely. It's just like the slow down, the core workouts, doing the shorter rides. Like she really likes a 20-minute ride right now. We've been bumping it up in like 2 to 5 minute increments. So we started at 10 to 15 and now we're officially at 20, and really, really happy with her progress too, especially with the heat. We haven't been able to be very consistent. But she's actually like holding herself in frame for most of the ride now. And she had a bodywork session on Friday. And they said that she was not showing any signs of pain or discomfort. Like everything was really soft and good, which is the first time she's scored like that in a long time. So
that's awesome.
Everything is coming together to get her comfortable as naturally as possible without medicine. Although I'm anticipating in the winter, we might need to do either some pain management or injection. Just arthritis and cold temps don't really go together.
Yeah, that's a tough combo,
especially if it's going to be really wet. So, but it's nice to know that we're keeping her comfortable through, summer and fall. That's great.
Well, and you're creative. You'll be able to find ways to modify, what you're doing for colder temperatures. And
I know,
even if it's like not moving forward, if it's just maintenance, like that's generally what my winters are like too. It's
exactly. Like it's not like we're going to be working hard. Like any chance of a big show career is not in our cards. So it's more like just having fun and keeping her healthy and happy. And she's happy as when she's doing some sort of job. So we're just having fun and doing different things together, then so be it.
Nice. This heat has been a challenge. Like we don't normally get this many days this warm.
No, it's the humidity. Like the humidity is the killer part.
It's the humidity combined. Yeah. And I know like everyone is laughing at us in Southerner, but like, our horses aren't acclimated to it. Yeah. We're not acclimated. The horses aren't as acclimated. So like,
no.
Yeah, it's tough. It's the same thing. Like we don't laugh at you when it gets chilly down there. So don't laugh at us when it gets warm up here.
Yes.
So but it's been hard.
Been a bit of a thing, but I did take a client's horse out to a show and like, bless her heart, like the thing's just not very fit. It's really like asking a couch potato to go run a marathon. But Mildred, I love her. Like her heart is just gold. It really is. So worst dressage scores I've ever received. However, the only thing that let her down, one, there were horses that just were more put together than her, like nothing you can control there. And her fitness, like she doesn't have core strength. She really struggles to balance herself. But man, she tried so hard. She was very obedient. She was not a fan of the judge's booth, but she still went by it and did all the things and didn't spook, which at the end of the day, my job is just to get her exposure and make sure she's not going to run away with a small child. So she passed. Nailed it. It was her first time. I actually put her in a training test just to give her some more canter work. So it was really an exercise day. Like, can you sit and be tacked up and warm up, do the test, come back, sit. So it was more of a training day. I was not anticipating her winning anything. But it also helped reinforce conversations with the owners of like how important quality training is. So I'm not working this horse every single day. I work her once a week. So what they're doing in between with their daughter, like she needs to be sure like she's spending the time looking for quality session, not just putting minutes in the saddle because we're reinforcing the wrong muscle structure. And I did a post on that in our Instagram. It's not because like she's mean or doesn't like have ill intentions for the horse or anything like that. It's just she doesn't know. And so sometimes like that greenness does show. So we're going to be working on more groundwork, more suppling work, and just kind of slowing down that it doesn't need to be about show season. It's more about doing it correctly. So next year we're prepared and see those scores go up.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to think of it. Like, like we always try to work hack days into our schedule so that we're not just doing flat work all the time, but then like, it has to be correct quality flat work to actually benefit from it, which can be hard to do if you're just sort of left unguided.
Yes.
All by yourself. So,
yeah. So gave them some exercises. So I told them if they do anything like groundwork first and help her learn how to go over the poles correctly. We are going to include some side reins. I know they're not my favorite, but when set on the loosest setting, as long as the horse can go up and down as they want, it's just maybe a little bit harder to sustain being up. They're not a bad tool. You just don't want to over exaggerate in force when you do it. So in this case, Millie has gotten quite strong with her giraffing. She's very pleasant. No. She's very responsive to breaks and all of that, but she just doesn't like to be uncomfortable. Like she's really not one to build the muscle. Like Millie would love.
Same, Millie. Like I get it.
Yeah, like she's like, why do I need to lift heavier? It's like because you have to build the muscle. Like I'm sorry.
No, Millie, live your best mixed
Millie
girls
wants to
summer.
Eat snacks and
Millie wants to go
day.
canoeing with me.
Yes, she's so sweet. Like I love her. I love her so much. But she is also learning how to do hard things. And that I think that's something to think about with broodmares coming in too. Like she has only really been in work for going on a year and a half. So this
right.
is...
And she was starting with like the broodmare bod too.
Yes.
Right. So you're sort of like building up from a place that's not the same as your average horse coming off the track that has a different level of fitness. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot to work with. And like in a lot of ways, like she's kind of rediscovering her post-baby body and like how that works and moves. So yeah, I'm excited to see her progress, but she definitely isn't like a horse who hasn't had a baby, who might be younger and a little bit fitter from the beginning. Like there's things that we have to take into consideration, including her diet. And, you know, there's a whole broodmare coming into work episode. Go check that out. It's our July 10th episode. You'll love it. I won't go into all the details, but basically we cover it there. But I am happy with how she performed. And, you know, it was a long day for her, but she never said no. And she wasn't unhappy. Like she was very engaged during the whole thing too, even though it was hard. She still stayed very engaged, which is what I look for.
Good for her. I definitely don't want to engage when it gets hard. So
no. And then it started getting hot too. So like she literally fell asleep as we were standing outside. It was cute. But I got her a stall so she could be in like a beautiful crossbreed shaded barn. I'm not a total monster.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Yes. Yes.
Good for you, Jeff.
But with that, we're going to hear some really good stories in today's episode. I'm stoked for our guest. I think people are really going to like it. But before we dive in, we're going to hear from our premier sponsor, Kentucky Performance Products.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
If you've ever had a horse with diarrhea, you know what a frustrating problem it can be. Finding an ingredient that works to dry up the diarrhea becomes a high priority. It turns out that researchers have found one, a yeast called Saccharomyces boulardii. It has been proven to improve and halt episodes of diarrhea. It supplies specific nutrients to the lining of the small and large intestines, and these nutrients promote healing of irritated tissues. It also supports improved starch and sugar digestion in the small intestine, reducing the opportunity for imbalances to occur in the hindgut. Nalox Advanced, made by Kentucky Performance Products, contains Saccharomyces boulardii, along with a blend of fermentation solubles and stomach buffers. Nalox Advanced is recommended for horses of any age that are suffering from diarrhea. It also supports a healthy digestive tract in horses at risk for gastric or colonic ulcers, such as performance horses or any horse that is constantly on the go and exposed to stressful situations. For best results, Nalox Advanced should be fed on a daily basis.
This Nutritional Minute has been brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. You can find all of their terrific products at kppusa.com.
Well, I am super excited, Kristen, to bring on our next guest. We have Megan Smits, or Meg, as I'll refer to her the rest of the episode, because I've gotten to be chummy with her. We got to meet at a dressage event this summer, and she is a thoroughbred girl. Like, she is part of the family. I'm so excited to bring her on. Welcome to the show, Meg.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here today. Thanks.
It's great to have you. So when we met at the scribing event, there was our judges learning opportunity happening at one of our local dressage spaces in Michigan. I got a chance to run into Meg, and the more I talked with you, the more I realized you needed to be on the show because your background in the thoroughbred world is extensive.
Did you just call me old?
No, I just mean like there's a lot you can do with horses, and you've done it.
Just well-rounded.
Well-rounded.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was just like thoroughly impressed in how you've immersed yourself. And while there's a ton of things we can talk about, I'd love to just get the like quick 2-minute recap of how you even got involved with thoroughbreds in the first place.
Sure. So my original off-track experience was actually with a standardbred as pretty much an infant. My dad and my grandfather had a small farm in Western New York, and one of the first horses I ever sat on was an old standy pacer. So off-track horses have been in my blood for my entire life, and I started with the off-track thoroughbreds when I was riding with an instructor in Southeast Michigan. Her name was Hillary, and she had a partner named Frank. And Frank trained and owned several horses that he had on the track. And she was a hunter-jumper instructor. So when his horses were looking for a second career, they would transition back to the farm, and they would get integrated into her program as resales, as lesson horses. And that was my first taste of really the thoroughbreds. Fresh off the track was in about 93.
Wow. I love it. It's like they're addictive, though. That's the one thing I've learned very quickly with them is they are very addictive once you get to know them.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I also like that you have experience with the standardbreds too, because I think there's more crossover there than we think. And I think hopefully this also encourages people who came in one way to also try the other, between thoroughbreds and standardbreds.
You bet.
I love it. Well, tell us a little bit today. You have a barn currently, Oak Lane Equestrian. It's based in Michigan. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about what you do there and some of the horses you have.
Sure. So to kind of, I guess, back up just a little bit, going back to 2003, I dealt with an assault while I was in college. And around the same time, I ended up finding a thoroughbred that was pretty neglected from the standpoint of his nutrition. He had a leg injury that wasn't being treated. So I took him under my wing to kind of help rehab him, and then went through an assault myself, a little domestic violence situation. And a big part of my recovery and my healing was the relationship I built with this particular thoroughbred. So fast forward over the years, and I threw myself into therapeutic riding and how horses can heal. And at my farm now that I purchased in 2020, the past few years, we've been doing some pro bono work for a group of women surviving sex trafficking. And as of April this year, we are officially have a nonprofit wing here at the farm so that we can grow and do more empowerment, confidence building, and some trauma work for people overcoming some of these personal issues.
That's intense, but I love that you have this program, and I love, that you're willing to share that experience and talk about that. Like, this is the other thing I love with this podcast, right? Like, we talk, everything is through the lens of retired racehorses, but we cover so much ground, and this is such an important thing to talk about and keep, create comfortable spaces where people can talk about this and, bring this up. And, this is really cool.
It is.
Yeah, I so attribute the thoroughbreds in particular because of their sensitivity and because of their intuitiveness with their people to so much of my healing from a variety of things over the years. I am beyond lucky to get to then share that with other people.
Yeah, that sensitivity, in the breed, sometimes can work against people, if they're like ham-handed or just, just not the most polished riders, like people can struggle with thoroughbreds, but also that sensitivity can be used in such unique ways, so I think that's such an underappreciated side of that breed, like how that sensitivity can work.
I completely agree with that. Like I almost, and this is me very much generalizing, but I feel like people who don't enjoy a thoroughbred, I think it's because they do mirror things. Like they make you face things about yourself that you may or may not be ready to deal with.
Amen.
So I can see why you would use them in your program. And like, unfortunately, it's a very common thing that many women and men and several people will go through. And it's awful that it happens, but I love that you've opened your space up to provide this healing opportunity for them.
Thanks. We ran a group last month that I think was just so interesting and so much fun. We had a group of women out, and they're actually some of the women who are on the volunteer staff of this organization that helps support transitioning the women away from the sex trafficking industry. And so their support folks came out to the farm, and we spent some time really doing some work getting into the present moment. And, when we talk about the thoroughbreds being a little bit sensitive, a lot, and again, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but a lot of horses will be a little bit stoic or internalize things a little, or maybe not give you that mirror quality, that reflection back. But we took some chairs out to I have a pasture where several of my off-track horses live together, and one Dutch warm blood Arab cross that doesn't know he's not a thoroughbred. Don't tell him. And we sat outside, and we just worked on getting into the present moment. What do you think? What do you feel? What do you see? Just in the environment, not yet looking at the horses. And then we transitioned that to, okay, now let's observe the horses. And the change in the horses from when everyone shifted their gaze to the horses, and then when we were done with that aspect of the exercise and shifted back to the present moment and having some discussion amongst one another, we were a couple 100 feet away, but when that energy was directed towards them, they all changed their behavior. And we talked about that. So when we think about living with intention and living with what we send out into the world, these horses gave us such a specific example of when we all just turned our heads and looked that way, they could feel us all directing the attention on them. And a couple of them got a little suspicious, and one was a little bit curious. And it was interesting to see how that changed just depending on how we existed in space. So they're just amazing animals. And you don't get that kind of feedback necessarily from every breed out there. So you're spot on. If there's something that you're not ready to deal with, the thoroughbreds are going to make you deal with it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whether you're, approaching them in like a more conventional riding way or this this therapeutic way. So yeah, when you say the words therapeutic program, like I always assume if I'm thinking it, like someone else on the internet is also thinking it. My mind immediately goes to like therapeutic, like the therapeutic riding programs for maybe riders with like a physical disability or a learning disability. But this sounds more almost like an EGALA model. So what's the nuts and bolts of how your program works? Like, what do you do?
So our goal is really kind of to offer different facets of what I'm going to call therapeutic horsemanship. So one of those facets, I have two amazing women who have jumped on board to help build this aspect of it, is really more along the equine assisted learning or equine assisted psychotherapy, where you are really in a much more traditional counseling setting or within the farm setting. So you're with a licensed counselor doing work with the horses present. So that's one aspect of what we do. Another aspect is a little bit of life coaching. So where we work on that empowerment, it's maybe a group setting where we are off horse, but we are getting really in the present and really exploring our emotions, our feelings, and how that directs our life. And then the third little wing is the therapeutic riding, where we are, when it's appropriate, riders who may have particular challenges, special needs, or things they need to overcome. We help pair them with a particular horse that's going to elicit some of those positive physical changes as well. So we do a little bit of everything. Like I said, this particular program, we're just getting off the ground here in April. But I have been working in therapeutic riding facilities as well as therapeutic horsemanship since 2012, I guess now. So it's several years. I myself am certified through PATH as well as through CHA.
Oh, very cool. So how do you find the right horse for the program? Does any horse work? Any thoroughbred will say, or do you have before people are just sending you horses right and left, please take my horse?
That would be really bad because I can't say no. Yeah. So when I'm considering a horse to be a part of the program, there's a couple things that are really important to me. And I'll kind of give you a little bit of an example. In 2012, I started at a program in Western New York, and we need a little change up in our lesson horses. So it fell on me to kind of start screening some new prospects. And when I go meet a horse for the first time, what I'm really kind of looking for is a curious spirit. I like a horse with curiosity, because if we're doing something like therapeutic riding, there might be sensory objects or obstacles that the horse may need to encounter. So if I have a horse who's either stoic and internalizes, or a horse that's really avoidant, that doesn't always, it's just a little added speed bump, I guess, to bringing them into the program and helping build their confidence. But if I have a horse that I see through exposing some unusual items to him, and the horse is curious and engaged, that's a horse that I know will be a really fun one to bring on board to helping people. So I don't necessarily shop on breed. I shop on personality type. And in 2013, we actually had a 3.5-year-old off-track thoroughbred, youngest in the country, doing therapeutic riding lessons. He was so curious, and he just jumped right in and was like, "This is what I do now." So
a child prodigy.
He's
wise beyond his years.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He unfortunately passed away at age 8, I believe, and but he was the coolest. He was just the coolest. I had a lot of fun with him. So I tend to look for a curious horse that wants to engage and wants to participate and spend time with the people. That's I think the most important thing, at least in my book.
I love that. Oh, it just sounds like dreamy, like that type of horse. It sounds like what everyone wants in a relationship with a horse, that romantic and kind and just intuitive horse relationship.
Yeah, but so
also
many
one
people,
that's not afraid to tell you where your shortcomings are either.
Yeah.
Right? Or not shortcomings, but challenges.
It's the friend you need, not necessarily the one you want all the time.
Right.
Yeah, and understand that the horse like that may not come in a package that you were expecting. So it might be missing an eye. It might not have the best conformation. So
it might be a chestnut mare.
Yeah. So being open-minded and really saying, I'm not gonna look at you, horse, and judge the book by the cover, and say, really, who are you on the inside? Because isn't that what we all want to about ourselves?
I think that's fantastic, and a good lesson of just how we should be treating everyone, not even just horses, but everyone in general. I feel like you're really leaving everyone with some life lessons today, Meg. I think you are.
That's very kind.
And I know too that you have race connections who have helped kind of find the right horses for you. How have you built those connections, and how could someone get recommendations to set that up for themselves if they're looking for a certain type or personality per se?
So I had kind of an unusual dive into that. In 2012, I was diagnosed with a little bit of cancer and had a couple surgeries to go through. And what do you do when you're sad? You get another horse, right? So that's what I did. And there was a horse that I saw on the Finger Lakes page, actually. And he looked like a lot of things that I found interesting, a little bit gangly, but there was something really, really beautiful underneath. And I ended up going out to pick him up. And I'll be very honest, at that period of my life, it was very, very challenging. I really felt like I didn't have a lot of self-worth. I felt insecure. My cancer was reproductive based. So I learned that I wasn't able to have children. So I felt like a lot of things about me were just kind of falling away. I didn't feel very strong. I felt kind of weak and worthless. And interestingly, this horse, he stepped in and embodied everything that I wasn't. He was brave and bold and strong and a little bit arrogant and all of these things that filled the blanks in the areas that I was lacking. And so because of his temperament, his personality, I reached out to the breeder. I looked up his information on Equibase and I reached out to the breeder, and he was bred in Saratoga at a farm called Five Oaks. And I sent an email to Tom and just introduced myself and said, I don't know if you're interested, but I've got 1-year-old horses and I love him and he has a forever home and he is such a special animal. And so in 2012, Tom and I forged a friendship, and ever since then, Tom lets me know, hey, I've got a special horse if you're interested. And interestingly, I'm actually going out to visit Tom in about 2 weeks. I'll go and spend some time with him and his wife and at their farm in Saratoga. He's just an incredible person. I'm thankful for our friendship. And so you never know. So if there's a horse that you think is pretty special, reach out. Reach out to the breeders, reach out to the trainers. They may be interested to hear the story of where their horse is today and what they're doing. And it's a great way to forge that connection.
I could not agree with that more. And, that's always something like with our work at the RRP, we're always trying to help bridge more of those relationships, between the second or sometimes third career owners and the racing connections. And I think increasingly, like, you still run into the oddballs who are like, nah, I don't own the horse anymore. Like, I don't really think much about it. But generally speaking, I do think the majority of breeders and owners, they really were invested in those horses, and it was just not the chapter of that horse's life that related to them anymore. In the same way that we buy and sell horses and, as recreational horses all the time, like that's okay, right? Like, you don't have to commit to a horse for life. It's great if you do, but you don't. That's just not how horses work. So yeah, I love that. And I love that, you have this great relationship with them. And I have to imagine that it, feels good for them to know how these horses are helping people.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And we send photos and updates, and Tom and I have the pleasure of getting to talk here and there. And I shared with him that last year we had an opportunity to work with some women that were rebuilding their lives a bit after being trafficked. And typically I have an idea of what horses I want to bring in ahead of time to work with our guests. And this particular day, I just had this weird feeling that I needed to give this one young lady an option. So we walked outside, and one of the options was we have a lovely Palomino quarter horse that is in his late 20s, and he is a stately gentleman. And so I pointed him out to her, and I said, today you can work with Scotty. And I said, or I'm going to give you the option of working with Forrest. And Forrest is one of the horses Tom sent to me. Forrest was a bottle baby. He was orphaned at birth, and has a pretty unique story. He was fairly crooked up front and required being in braces for a good bit of his young horse life. They didn't know that he'd ever make it to the track or not. And he ended up getting stronger, making it to the track. And now he's a lovely horse. He loves to jump. He's a little dressage horse too. He's lovely. And this young lady, actually, she chose Forrest. So we went out to get his halter on and to bring him back in. And as we're walking into the barn, I shared with her, Forrest is pretty special. He was orphaned at birth. And the woman turned and looked at me and said, I was orphaned as well. I don't know my parents. And I just thought it was so interesting that she gravitated toward this animal that had a similar heartbreak as her. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool what we get to do.
Yeah, this is fascinating to me. Not only like the story of whatever, forces are bringing these people together, but your intuition as well, of like, let's try this in the moment, and yeah, you can argue like what kind of science is happening or, spiritual or supernatural, but like, I find this very cool.
But it's just feel, right? We know our horses, and the more we are in tune with ourselves, where we are emotionally, it's easier to pick up on what the horses are dealing with. It's easier to pick up on what other people are dealing with. So kind of breaking it down and really allowing your intuition to kind of guide you a little bit and allowing the horses to help guide that session. I just, you get those gut feelings and you go with it.
Oh, this is so cool. We could talk to you for hours and hours about this. And now I want to come hang out. So
please do.
I know.
Come visit.
We'll be planning that trip. It's fine.
I love it. Girls Weekend. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Well, Meg, this has been super cool. Where can listeners learn more about your program or follow you on social media?
Sure. So our farm is Oak Lane Equestrian. Our website is oaklaneequestrian.com. The nonprofit end, which we are just building the website on and building some Facebook presence, is Connections, and that's CONNEQTIONS. And you can find us on. Thank you. You can find us on Facebook or at connections.org.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. This has been a really cool conversation, and we're going to have you back on so we can do a part 2 of this because there's so many more questions I have. But
I'd be honored. Thank you.
I'm sure Joy as well. So
Yes,
we'll catch up again soon.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Cashel has been crafting top-notch products since 1986, designed to make your ride safer, more convenient, and downright enjoyable. From the Crusader Fly Mask, the ultimate fly mask, trusted by riders nationwide, to the blanket top performance felt pad with pressed felt with merino fleece. It's like a spa day for your horse's back. To the beautiful beaded halters, adjustable, durable, and gorgeous. Visit CashelCompany.com today and gear up for the ride of a lifetime. Cashel, where quality meets the saddle. Joy, we are back with our Making the Makeover segment, and we have a new combination. This is my favorite part of the series, right? Is getting our trainers in different combinations and like just letting the conversation roll and see where it takes us. So tonight we have Chris Bennings, our returning veteran, and we also have Maya, our first timer. And Maya was generous enough to share a lot of her challenges along the way, with the thought that she might need to withdraw. So Maya, do you want to give us an update? Did you formally withdraw your guy?
Yeah, unfortunately, I did end up doing that about 2.5 weeks ago. I made the decision that it probably wasn't going to be the best thing for him. So we won't be joining you guys in Kentucky this year.
Which is always like a hard decision to make in the moment, but ultimately is like the best horseman's decision. So, and we mentioned this last time too, but like a big thumbs up to you for making the best decision for your horse. Because he was just not like mentally ready to really go into retraining. Is that right? It's been a couple episodes. I'm just trying to refresh everybody.
We called him Quentin in the barn. Little Quentin, he needed more time to learn what it was to be a horse not on the track. We had a really, really, really hard time getting him to adjust, getting him to eat consistently and be healthy. And it sort of became a little bit of a battle between like his health and his mental health, not to be dramatic or anything, but he just wasn't going to be ready. He wasn't happy about working. He wasn't happy about his life. And I wasn't comfortable pushing him and trying to force him to be something he wasn't. He was only 4 years old. So I ended up finding him a really low impact, quiet trail job. And he's super, super happy with his new dad. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
And you think he's the kind of horse that maybe in a few years, like he could ramp back up into a more intensive job? Or, I mean, the other thing is like, I guess he doesn't have to, right? Like if he's in a happy, good fitting home, like he doesn't need to do anything else.
No, I think, frankly, I don't think that's ever going to really be his thing. It kind of struck me as the type that had been overwhelmed by the environment and the job description from the get-go. And he had sort of like pushed through out of sort of like I don't know, he wasn't necessarily a fearful horse, but he was almost, I don't want to call him aggressive, but it was almost like a fight response. And so like when you would really push him past his comfort zone, he would get frustrated And so I don't know that he'll ever really enjoy a job where he's asked questions that he doesn't know the exact answer to. I think he's always going to be just insecure enough. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just like with people, right? There are some people that just are not happy to do new things. That's not their jam. They don't like new situations. They don't like new people. They like their routine and they like the things that they know. And he is definitely the horse version of that. So he's living his life. He's happy as a clam. He's put on, about 100 pounds, which I'm thrilled about. And he's just in a big pasture with a bunch of other horses and, absolutely living a fabulous life. So sometimes I think it's harder. I think it's definitely harder for us as people than it is for the horses to do something else. You know what I mean?
Right. Because you had so many hopes and expectations, tied up in him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of divine intervention. It's kind of divine intervention, in my opinion, that the first, I've done, thoroughbred after thoroughbred after thoroughbred. And the first thoroughbred I get to do the Retired Racehorse project with is this one, and it's sort of we don't get to dictate what they do. At a certain point, we can guide them, we can teach them, and we can give them the tools that they're going to need for their next job. But at a certain point, if they're not made to do that job, if they don't like it, they're not going to do it. So it was a little bit of it was definitely a humbling thing for me, but also I was thrilled to find someone who was happy with who he was and happy to take him how he was and, going to give him a life and a routine that he's going to thrive in. So
I love that. I'm so happy for him and for you and for his new people. And this ultimately is a happy ending. I know it's you said, it's humbling and it sucks, that you wanted to apply and do the thing, and join us at the makeover. And, you'll definitely, I don't know if you're planning to attend in person, but you'll be with us in spirit because this is exactly one of the outcomes that we want to have happen, right? Obviously we would love all of you to make it, but the reality is that, and it's the same thing in horse racing, right? Everybody wants to breed a Derby winner and that it's
absolutely
only one horse a year gets to be that horse. So
right.
Only
and
20 of them get to start. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the end result, when we really break it all down as trainers and riders and owners and whatever you are, we just want our horses to be successful and happy in their careers, and we have to kind of let go of our own ego at a certain point and accept that what they are good at and what they're going to succeed at might not line up with what we want to do. So it was definitely a bummer. It was definitely discouraging, but also all I can ask for is for my horses to be, like I said, happy and successful in their careers. And Quentin got that. So we can't complain.
Yeah. This is the wisdom that we all need, right? We all need Maya to be no, man, this is fine. This is, this is the goal ultimately.
I had my tears about it. I mean, I'm not a machine, right? I'm bummed, but it is what it is. And horses are horses and we all do it because this is what we love. So
yeah. Well, good for you. Like we mentioned last time, our hats are off that, you did everything you could to find this horse the right situation, even if it wasn't quite how you would have, written the story yourself. So,
right.
Yeah. So I'm going to put this on Chris now then, because I know Chris, we all know Chris Bennings, right? Show jumper champion with Prince of New York, show hunter champion with Mission Canyon. But it's not always been champion Chris, right? You've had challenging horses, you've had challenges on your makeover journey. So, do you have any stories you want to share to kind of, Maya sounds like she's in a fine place, but to help Maya feel better about this decision.
Well, I mean, going back to Maya, I genuinely applaud you for recognizing this is not it. I don't think people understand how difficult the makeover is. And when you're picking a horse, you're looking at movement in a picture. Maybe you get a jog video or a friend of a friend knows something about, and then you get the horse home. And we talked about this in a previous podcast about, previous life experiences and that was part of my success and demise and whatever. But, when you start unraveling the horse that you have, you start understanding there are dramatic scars and traumas and wonderful experiences. And you have to, get them to mesh at the right time. And the makeover is it when you sign up, it sounds like it's, a year's away, and in 2 minutes it's on you. And it's very daunting. It's very stressful. It causes me stress every single year of the year, or every day of the year. A lot of things go into it. And, Maya, I applaud you for just recognizing this is not going to happen. I literally the other day, was just thinking my horse is not ready. In my mind, I had a vision of what I wanted to do this year, and I'm like, it's not happening. And we went to the horse show. I had a bad day, and I came back and rode and had a lovely ride. And I was like, all right, well, I'll keep going. We're just a couple months away. Maybe I can keep doing it. But you're not just dealing with the horse in front of you and the rider that's on it. There's emotions and traumas and training and all sorts of things that you have to put together at one weekend of the year. And that's really hard, So, I applaud you for saying, you know what, we're just not doing it. And the horse isn't ready, and understanding that I need to take a breath. And I think that's what we all need to do, is just take a breath and go, you know what, if we do end up at the makeover, this is what we've got. Let's have fun. Let's make a good experience of it. And if it doesn't work out, we'll fix it. And if you're not ready to go and ready to take on that, if there's something going on, let's just wait. Some of these horses, they just need time. And I think that's really cool. And I'm really happy for you, Maya. It sucks, but good for you, girl.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that.
Chris, sometimes you can be so wise. A lot of the time you can be very wise. I'm going to take that back.
Well, most of the time I'm really stupid. And then every now and again, those neutrons, they bump up and they go, yeah.
Yeah. What were you just saying? Everything's aligning on this one day, right? Like this is your makeover day. It's happening. We're getting the best of Chris. 100%.
Because prior to any success I had at the makeover, we would just show up and it was like, let's just have this a vacation. We're away from the barn. It was a long drive from Florida, and we never showed up prepared and ready to go. And then, we moved to Kentucky, and it was like, all right, we need to take this seriously, because these people that show up, they're not playing around. But it's a lifestyle. If you're going to take on a thoroughbred, you have to get in that mindset and really go for it. I think you're starting with a better athlete than anybody else, but can you finish it? And with the makeover, there's such a incredible support system. If you actually take the step to reach out and you say, you know what, I'm having problems, and people are like, you know what, that's great. I've had that take a breath, or, you know what, push on. And then, there's a community that it's really weird, but you have to take that step and reach out. People want to help, and they want to share knowledge, and it's amazing.
Well, I was actually just going to mention that, Maya, if you're in the trainers only Facebook group, this might be a story, if you're comfortable sharing it, this might be a story that might help other trainers, who might be on the fence. We're recording this on the last day of July, so final entry opens tomorrow. And this episode will come out August 10th. So midway through final entry. So trainers are at that kind of crux decision-making point of is my horse ready for this class, or do I need to go an easier route? Or is my horse ready to be there at all? Do I make the final entry? Do I withdraw now? Is he going to be ready in 2 months? I don't know. So, if you're willing to share that story, that may help a lot of other trainers, really kind of zoom out and look at their own journey, and see where they're at and where they need to be. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Not to keep making you drag this whole experience out, but I figure you're willing to share it with us. So
no, I don't mind at all. Seriously, there's nothing really honestly negative about it besides my disappointment. And frankly, as a horse person, and especially as a someone who works in the horse industry, you can't be disappointed about horses.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you'll never get anywhere because they're just walking disappointments all the time.
You're just going to be wallowing. You're just going to live your life just like crying in the ditch. Like it's not, horses are horses, and
it's not a failure. It's just a different ending.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's nothing about this horse there's nothing wrong with this horse. There's nothing wrong with my program. He just wasn't going to be mentally successful, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice his well-being to try and do it. So that's that. I think there's absolutely nothing. I'm happy to talk about it with whoever. So I hear you.
Yeah. Cause I do think that's the best
thing I've ever heard, crying in a ditch. We have
sums up
I applaud you. Maya.
Yeah. I mean,
we've all been there.
I was waiting for you guys to ask, how's it going with Chris? And I'll be like, dumpster fire. Crying in a ditch is absolutely better.
Well, yeah. Okay. So is it not going well, Chris? Because it sounds like maybe it's not going great for you either.
Well, no, I mean, to be honest, like the other day, I did take a bottle of wine in the bathroom and cried out with Jesus. But we've gotten better.
It's horses, Chris. It's just horses.
Chris, I know this isn't your first rodeo, but my God, are you new here?
You know what? By the time the tractor broke, the mower broke, the horses got loose.
Oh no!
And then like all of that stuff, and you're just like, I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Chris, I feel you. You get a bill from the mechanic on your hauling truck, and you're like, I'm just gonna go cry in the ditch. That's my only option right now.
Well, my thing is,
this year's makeover shirt, crying in a ditch.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
We should.
Last year it was doing it for the content. Yeah. This year it's just weeping in a ditch somewhere. All right, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh God.
Yeah. We should hashtag that, crying in a ditch.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, give me creds on that. I need the publicity.
Small break, Maya. Yeah, well, and it's a ride every year, right? Like we've been doing this Making the Makeover format for a couple of years now. So I think it was 2 years ago, like it was the great August of hoof soreness. Like every single person we had on, their horse was a little lame in August. And of course that is final entry time. And everyone was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And they all managed to kind of get it together and they all made it and it was fine. What was it last year, Joy? I don't know if we had like a group calamity or not.
We did. It was hoof issues last year.
It was hoof issues again. Yeah, it does tend to be feet a lot. And this year it's sort of
it's more of a mental thing this year for the
horse mental. Yeah, maybe horse mental, but yeah.
I mean, me too. I'm not even competing.
Yeah. If you and I make it to the makeover, it's going to be a miracle. So we should do a segment on that. Well, you guys, I always love, having this candid conversation, where we're not afraid to tackle like the not great sides of training because, we're in an Instagram culture where everyone, and I'm guilty of this too, we just share the highlights and that's not the reality. And I think it's really, really cool to share, that it doesn't always go great. And I think this is an important platform to do it on because, this is not to scare people away from doing the makeover, but I think the reality is like, it is very much like preparing a horse for any other major event. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So thank you both for, sharing the not so good stuff, or at least the not the way you wanted it to go stuff. And Maya, I guess
dumpster fires are great.
I hope not literally. I hope you're not actually doing that.
Have you ever seen someone run from a dumpster fire? They're all watching it.
Okay, once, and it was
We're
next
mesmerized
to a
by them.
But otherwise, it was fine.
All right, I'm bringing it back around. So, Maya, if listeners want to follow your program and see maybe you'll join us again for the makeover next year, where can people do that?
I have an Instagram and a Facebook. It's Red Pine Equestrian. I'm based in Aiken, South Carolina, so feel free to give me a little follow there. I would love to join next year. Who knows what's going to happen? I've got a little bit of time before then, but we'll see.
Yeah, you never know. We'll find just the right one and all the stars align again. And Chris, we know.
Don't.
Yeah, just everybody can just wait and see Chris in person and listen to our podcast.
Listen to the podcast. Look for the dumpster fire. That's where I'll be.
All right,
Chris,
good
you
deal.
don't have a Facebook?
Well, I do, but it's Don't go on. Maya, don't go on it. Don't. It's a lot. There's a lot of goat pictures.
Oh my God.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, we need to make a side quest on this. Chris, are you bringing the goat in the stroller again this year to the makeover?
Absolutely. I can't leave him at home.
Okay, we need to take 2 minutes and talk about this. Please tell us about the goat in the stroller, because this is the best commercial for the makeover we could possibly have.
Yeah, he's a bit special needs, and he has a stroller, and he's been on National Geographic twice, and he's the best.
All right.
So,
is he physically impaired?
Yes, I'm mentally impaired. He's physically impaired.
If you put the two of you together,
well, you match those two, it's a party.
All right. You heard it here first, folks.
Enough.
Thoroughbred
That's
makeover.
enough.
You come for the horses, you stay for the goat and the stroller, and that's
We have
a
special.
wrap.
We have special ordered a bow tie for this year.
Oh boy.
Yep.
What does
right,
it
well,
look
he'll
like?
be
I'm not
making
going
an
to be
appearance
there.
on
I
our
need to
social.
know.
But he'll
Okay,
make
good.
an appearance on our social media. Don't worry. We're just gonna let him do a takeover the whole week long.
Oh yeah.
Check out the
Easily.
Insta.
All right. Thank you both very much. We'll look forward to next time.
Happy birthday, Joy.
Thank you.
Joy, I have been getting a ton of ads on my social media feeds for these zero-proof horse treats, and they look really good. Like, I want to try them myself as a person. But you're an ambassador for them. Can you tell us a little bit more about zero-proof horse treats? Because they're a new sponsor for us, and we're really excited to have them.
I love zero-proof horse treats, and so does my horse, who is surprisingly very, very picky. She likes a certain type of texture, certain type of flavor, and it has to have like a certain level of like moisture to it. She's very picky and will spit things out, and she loves zero-proof horse treats. So I've had the fortunate opportunity to work with them now for about 6 months, and the treat flavorings are such fun flavors. They're all inspired by cocktails, which like horses and cocktails go together. Mint julep and the old fashioned are their OG flavors, which Astrid surprised me that she liked the old fashioned because it's got a bit of a citrus flavor to it. And, you know, citrus isn't normally one of the things that horses are known to like, but she really does like that one. And then they have their apple teeny, which is one of her favorites. And then their newest flavor is the carrot Cosmo, which I actually created my own cocktail to mirror their new one. So I'm happy to share that recipe on our Instagram. You'll have to follow us, Retired Racehorse Radio. But the carrot Cosmo, it smells divine, Kristen. It's like rosemary, gingery. Like I want it as a car air freshener, really.
It sounds
badly.
like an autumn kind of a nice little autumn treat.
As soon as you open the bag, it's great. And what's really cool is they actually use the millings that from the ingredients that go into distillers' products. So they're able to recycle that. It's made in Kentucky. So it's a USA company. It's small business owned. The owner is amazing. So if you end up purchasing it, you are helping a family there, which is cool too. You'll actually know the person on the other end of it. And I have a discount code for everyone. So you can get 10% off your order of zero-proof horse treats. They also have treats for your dogs, Barnyard Bites, which Tova loves those. The chicken pot pie is her favorite. And they are just coming out with cat treats too. So lots of things for all the animals in your barn. The code is JOYOR10. So that is JOYORR 10, and we'll get you a discount at checkout. And you can also find them in lots of your local tax stores too. They do encourage you to purchase from brick and mortar and support those small businesses as well.
Easy, effective, and eco-friendly fly control starts with Fly Predators. Fly Predators are the organic, natural way to dramatically minimize your fly problem. Learn more about Fly Predators and other Spalding Labs fly control solutions at Spalding, SPALDING-labs.com.
And from the back of the pack on the outside, Commanding Curve is taken second, but California Chrome shines bright in the Kentucky Derby.
And now it's time for the new Vocations Winner's Circle Adoptable Horse of the Week.
It's that time of the episode where we bring on new vocations. And today we are joined by Winnie Morgan Nemeth, who is over the standardbred side of things at New Vocations. Welcome back to the show, Winnie.
Hi, Joy and Kristen. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I have loved learning about standardbred since we've had a chance to feature you over the last year. And one of the things that I thought might help new listeners or even listeners who are kind of in my same situation, just learning about standardbreds, is I'd love to know some differences of pacers and trotters, both physically, but are there things to even think about when you're looking at an adoption ad for a pacer or a trotter?
Sure. I really think that's a great question because the trotters and pacers can be a little bit different. Stereotypically, when you think of a trotter, they usually are a little more hotter bred and a little more hotter horse to be around. Pacers tend to be a little bit more laid back and more tolerant. We definitely see a difference in trotting mares. They seem to be a little on the hot side versus a pacing mare. Now, of course, you can have a hot pacer and vice versa and a calm trotter, but just that's typically what you're going to get. Some people specifically think they must have a trotter because that's the only, it's going to trot, and not necessarily. Trotters will pace under saddle and vice versa. So, but yeah, just they do tend to be a little bit hotter. But I was just going to talk a little bit about the difference of the gait for people that may not even know or never even watched a harness race. But the difference is that a trotter moves its legs forward in diagonal pairs, and right front and left hind, then left front and right hind striking the ground. So whereas a pacer moves its legs laterally, so right front and right hind together, then left front and left hind. So it just gives people an idea of the difference of those gaits in the horses.
I love it because, obviously my sample size is really small, right? I have one standardbred. He's the only standardbred I've ever had, but he is a pacer, and he just took to trotting. I don't want to say right away, because we did a lot of just walking work just to get him strong enough, carrying a rider. But once he was kind of ready to move out, then I think he only paces under saddle every now and then when he loses his balance when loping. So, but otherwise, it was not an issue at all for him to pick up the trot. So yeah, if you are a new to standardbred person trying to decide which way to go, don't worry as much about the gaits. Sounds like as much as, do you want a little bit of a hotter horse or a little bit of a quieter horse, or are all horses an individual? And you won't know until you get to Vocations and try one out too.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, they're obviously very unique individuals, but that's kind of the rule of thumb with the trotters and the pacers. And, on racing side, pacers are faster. They accelerate quicker on the track. So they do go faster. They wear hobbles. That helps to balance them, especially going around those turns, and keep them pacing and not make a break. Trotters tend to make breaks much easier than a pacer. And making a break is when they start cantering during the race.
Interesting. And are there any big training differences that might come into play when you're retraining them for a riding career?
Not really. No, really it's just patience and trying to help the horse understand, what you're trying to teach them in their new transition. I think any horse, especially any horses that have raced, they've got a lot of knowledge under their belt already. So when we get them, it's just a matter of taking your time and, gradually introducing everything. But, the only differences we see is that the attitude and that, they tend to be a little more fiery. Maybe they're not your getter to the mounting block. They don't know what that is. They're going to stare at it and blow at it, and they're not going to stand. They're going to walk around it or walk around you maybe. So,
I love it.
Just where your pacer is usually okay, I'll stand here. But again, once they've got it figured out, then they're like, oh, this is not so bad. It's really the newness that they, how they're approaching something new can be a little bit different because it's not what they've always done.
Gotcha. I love it.
I need to ask my friend who she does our Magna Wave at the show series, and then also is bringing along her standardbred under saddle. And it's a younger mare who retired fairly young. So, she's got some of the, not baby horse, but younger horse spunk as it is, but she is pretty spicy. So I need to ask her what she was, if she was a trotter or a pacer. And they generally can only do one or the other, right? They don't do they specialize, or is it possible to take them back and forth?
So you have pacing bred horses and trotting bred horses. Sometimes a trotter will race better on the pace and vice versa. It's pretty rare, but certainly does happen. But they're bred to either pace or they're bred to trot.
So you probably won't ever find one that's like, oh, this week we're going to enter him in the trotting race, and this week we're going to enter him in the pacing race, right?
Yeah, it's pretty rare. It does happen, though. I mean, we've had a few horses that raced on both, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah, say that. I don't even know how you would how do you ask the horse to do something different? That's wild.
Yes. Yeah. Again, the hobbles help, and some horses are more prone, they call that being double gated. So some of them are more prone to do it. But again, to go the speed that they have to go nowadays, it's very rare to find one. It's definitely an older horse that, it started out this way. And then they switched over. I had a donor call me actually that had a horse that's still racing, that started out as a trotter racing. He's trotting bred, but then he switched to pacing, and they found he liked that better. But it's, cool. Not the norm.
Good for them though, multi-talented and just developing a new life skill. Why not? I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of developing new life skills, do you want to tell us about, we have a twofer special today for our Adoptable Horse of the Week. Yeah, I like this. If you can tell us more about our two lovely mares we're featuring today, which is Escadilla and WhyBabyWhy.
So yes, these two mares, which I know we normally feature one horse, but I'm featuring two today because they're in our Matron of Honor program, which means they are retired brood mares looking for a new home, and they're no longer mothers. They both were very good moms, and it just worked out that they're not having babies anymore. Escadilla is quite old. She's a 2001. Already broke to ride, has been on trail rides, has been around a cross country course. Not jumping anything, just walking around on the flat. They've been on trail rides. WhyBabyWhy has been on a trail ride. The thing is, these two ladies, they were not together then, but when WhyBabyWhy came in and met Escadilla, they became very quick friends. And Amanda Munson, who's our trainer there, just noted that they're always together. Her kids have ridden both of them. So they've been in arena, indoor, outdoor arena. They've been ridden on the trails, but they are great to go alone. So they're not attached to one another. You can take each one away, do whatever you want, come back, but they just have a very sweet friendship. And so what we were thinking is waiving both of the fees on the mares, and we're also covering the shipping on them as well.
Wow.
And that would be each one, if they didn't go together, of course, we know that's a big ask. But it is kind of nice when you have two that are such good friends and could be separated, go on trails, come back. WhyBabyWhy is
dream, right?
She's a 2004, and she actually lost her baby this year. So her owner retired her to us. But both have amazing temperaments, very kind, very gentle, very wise. Just seem to take everything in. They were super easy to break and transition, and I've just been amazed with how well they've done. And I loved seeing how much they enjoy each other's company. So that's why we're offering the special to get them placed. And we also have other mares waiting to come in, and we only have a certain amount of stalls. So we're like, let's just see what we can do and make it easy for the perfect person to get to adopt them.
I love this. It makes me wish that I had a bigger farm, or a farm of my own at all. And I'd be I will take them. They will come live with me. I will love it.
Yes.
But someone is going to get just two lovely matrons. If you are a new listener, we have really been getting into the brood mares recently. So go back, listen a couple episodes back. We were specifically talking about thoroughbred brood mares, but really a lot of, the truths about brood mares going into third careers applies to any breed. So these ladies look lovely and they're just ready to come and spend some time with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know we always say we joke they're free, but they're actually free this time.
Literally free.
And if you're hesitant about a more senior horse, don't be. We've talked numerous times about senior standardbreds. They are resilient. There's even some at our barn who are in their 30s and still doing a riding career, going up and down the trails, and are happy as can be to have a job. It floors me how resilient this breed is. So these two look like they have a lot of life in them, and the pictures of their faces with the kids like melts my heart. Like it is a lot to put a kid on an X-racer of any kind, to make sure they feel safe and secure, and knowing that those kids are trail riding with them, like says a lot about their personalities.
Yes. Yeah, it sure does. It's just been great to see them develop and where they're going. And so hopefully we'll be able to get them placed. I know we will, but they're two gems, that's for sure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Winnie. Check them both out, WhyBabyWhy and Escadilla, at newvocations.org. Get your applications in. You still need to be an approved adopter. So if this is the right pair for you, or if you need to only take one, I think, options on the table, but we're hoping that they go together for that lovely friendship. Thanks again, Winnie. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on the website at horseradionetwork.com. Like us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Retired Racehorse Radio. You can follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. You can find me on Instagram at The Horseback Writer and on Facebook at Jobber Bill, Racehorse to Ranch Horse. My email is Kristen@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me on Instagram at Misfit Mare, and my email is joy@horseradionetwork.com. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Kentucky Performance Products, Cashel Company, Zero Proof Horse Streets, and Spalding Labs, and to our partners, New Vocations Racehorse Adoption Program and the Retired Racehorse Project. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network, part of Equine Network, at horseradionetwork.com. Remember to set your goals high and love to learn from every ride
and cowside leg.
Bye, guys.